Before we begin, I would like to explain that most of these images are not my own. Image references can be found chronologically arranged at the end of this video or alphabetically arranged in the description below. The links provided therein contain the image licensing information. I would like to talk about the etymology of specific epithets. Etymology, not to be confused with entomology, which is the study of insects, is the study of names, and in particular their origins and meanings. Specific refers in this case to species as opposed to genera. The word species is a cognate, that is, a relative, of the word specific. This is as opposed to genus, a cognate of generic, which is a broader term. Epithet is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as, quote, an adjective or phrase expressing a quality or attribute regarded as characteristic of the person or thing mentioned. This term, specific epithet, inherently implies that species names have meanings that can tell you something about the plant to which they have been assigned. Many specific epithets are simply the name of a color, and these typically refer to flowers or foliage. For example, the bulb Calochortus albus has white flowers, while Calochortus albus var rubrum has red flowers. Most of these words originate from Latin or from Greek words that have been Latinized. The ending of the word indicates the so-called gender of the word, which does not necessarily correspond to the gender of the plant. Words ending in are neutral or neuter, while those ending in us are masculine, and those ending in a are feminine. Typically, the endings of the genus and species names should be the same, but in real life, they often differ. Not only are there epithets for different colors, but even for shades of the same color. Carneous, for example, is a cognate of carnal or carnage and means flesh-colored. Incarnatus, a related word, means flesh-pink. Corallinus is a cognate of that sea-dweller, coral, so it literally means coral-colored, though in this case the implication is that it is coral-pink. Roseus is a derivative of the word rose, and so means rosy-pink or rose-colored. Puniceus is a cognate of puce, which is a dark purplish red. Both words are derived from punica, which is the botanical name for pomegranate, so puniceus could be said to mean pomegranate-colored. Rubescens means turning red or becoming red. The word ending essens means becoming or turning. For example, pubescens means becoming hairy. Rubescens is a cognate of Rubens, which is derived from ruby, so it means ruby red. Flameus is an obvious cognate of flame and means flame-colored. Similarly, igneous, a cognate of ignite, also means flame-colored. Ferrugineus is a cognate of ferrous, another name for iron, and so it means rust-colored, and so on. A specific epithet may indicate the broad geographic origin of a plant. Septentrionalis, for example, is named for the seven-plow oxen constellation, which is now more commonly known by the names Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. This group of stars is only visible in the northern hemisphere, so plants bearing this name come from the northern hemisphere. Borealis means northern, like the aurora borealis, which literally translates to light northern or northern light. You may already be familiar with the words central and oriental, which means eastern. Occidentalis means western. Australis means southern, so the country of Australia is literally southern country. Plants with the name Australis don't necessarily come from Australia, though, just from the south, which is a somewhat subjective term. Specific epithets can also refer to places of origin. For example, the so-called Portuguese laurel, Prunus lusitanica, is native to Portugal. Lusitania was an ancient Roman province in the same general area where modern-day Portugal sits, so plants named for that region tend to receive the older Roman name. Albionus is a cognate of albus, which means white. The name Albion is still used literarily to refer to Britain in general or England in particular, and the name is in reference to the White Cliffs of Dover. For example, Rubus albionus is a species of blackberry native to Great Britain and Ireland. Europaeus means of Europe, and is typically used for plants which have a wide range within Europe, but could potentially be used for any plant in the geographic region, regardless of the range of distribution. For example, Olea europaea, the olive, has a wide range of distribution across Europe. There are specific epithets to indicate almost every individual country, as well as broader geographic regions or historic territories. Sarmaticus, for example, refers to the ancient region of Sarmatia, which was located north of the Black Sea, from the Ural Mountains to the River Don. In the modern day, Sarmatia is parts of Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. Orientalis, or Asiaticus, refers to plants from Asia. Platanus orientalis and Ranunculus asiaticus are two such plants. Countries whose names have changed over time may have multiple epithets indicating them as the country of origin. For example, Thailand used to be known as Siam, so there exists both the epithets Siamensis and Thaya. Formosa, or Formosensis, refers to plants from the island of Taiwan, which was once called Formosa. Formosa comes from the Portuguese and means beautiful. For example, Leycisteria formosa in Caprifoliaceae. Plants from this region can also be given the epithet Taiwanensis, for example, Pinus taiwanensis. Plants from Japan may receive either the specific epithet Japonicus or Nipponicus. Japan is what English speakers call the country, but the country calls itself Nihon or Nippon, which is the name given to it by China. China is sometimes known as the land of the rising sun, and as Japan lies to the east of China, it was given the name Nihon, which literally translates to sun source. Examples of this include Acer japonica and Acer nipponica, two distinct species in the same genus with distinct epithets indicating the same country of origin. Neogaius literally translates to new world, so any plant from the Americas, north or south, could be given this epithet. Hyperboreus combines the words hyper, meaning over or above, and boreas, meaning north. This epithet can be given to anything in the far north, but is usually applied to Canadian plants specifically, such as Erigeron hyperboreus. In addition to epithets for countries and broader geographic regions, there are also epithets indicating provinces, such as Yukonensis. Cerlaria yukonensis, the Yukon stitchwort, is a plant bearing one such epithet. Novae Angliae literally translates to New England, and so plants from the region may be given this name. For example, Symphyotrichum novae Angliae, the New England aster, is native to eastern North America. Occidentalis, as previously discussed, means western. However, what is west is entirely subjective. When Europeans began traveling to North America, because it was to the west of Europe, they started giving the specific epithet occidentalis to plants they found there. Once Europeans had moved into western North America, they started giving that name to plants there, too. Therefore, in the US at least, plants from both the east and west coasts may bear the specific epithet occidentalis. Platanus occidentalis, for example, is native to the eastern and central US, while Calycanthus occidentalis is native to central and southern California. Though East Coast plants having an epithet meaning western is counterintuitive in the modern day, the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature states that the oldest name takes precedence, so these names, confusing though they are, cannot be changed unless the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature is itself changed. Virginianus and Virginiensis refers to plants from the U.S. state of Virginia, while Virginicus refers to plants from the Virgin Islands. The similar name Virginalis refers to plants which are virginal, maidenly, or purest white. There are also epithets for every U.S. state and territory. For example, Zeneria guamensis is native to Guam. In addition to colors, directions, and geographic and political territories, epithets can indicate a plant's habitat. The snowdrop, Galanthus nivalis, for example, bears an epithet indicating that it grows in or near snow. Nyssa sylvatica is found in woodland habitats, and Acanthus montanus grows on mountainsides. Aurinia saxatilis, which is native to Central Europe and the northern Balkans, grows in rocky habitats. Juniperus scopulorum, the Rocky Mountain juniper, prefers rocky cliffs and mountainsides. Wood avens, Geum urbanum, here pictured on the top left, is a woodland margin plant, but it is also a common weed in domestic gardens and built-up urban areas. On the lower left, Nymphaea thermarum takes its name from the thermal hot springs where it makes its home. Pictured on the right, Cardamine pratensis, a cousin of the common weed hairy bittercress Cardamine hirsuta, thrives in meadow habitats. Seen here on the left are Myria maritima, or sea thrift, grows by the sea. Euphorbia palustris, on the right, grows in swampy, waterlogged areas. Helleborus dumitorum, subspecies dumitorum, on the left, grows in scrubby forests. Nymphoides aquatica, pictured on the top right, grows in water, though admittedly its leaves rest on the water's surface while its flowers are held up above. Cymbellaria muralis, pictured on the lower right, grows on walls. Muralis is a cognate of that commonly known word mural, which is a picture or painting on a wall. Plants can also be named for their growth habit. For example, Betula pendula on the left is named for its pendulous growth. Though the branches tend to be at least semi-upright, many long, whippy, leafy twigs hang down like bead curtains. Trifolium repens, on the upper right, more commonly known as white clover, is named for its tendency to slowly spread along the ground. Solanum tuberosum, the common potato, is named for the edible tubers it produces. Aside from being edible to humans, the tubers are storage compartments for food that the plant can use to feed itself. In addition to growth habit, plants can also be named for their leaf shape. Cosmos bipinnatus has, as the name implies, bipinnate leaves. Pinnate comes from Latin and means feathered, like pin feathers. Pinnate leaves are arranged like feathers are, with a central leaf or stem, and then smaller leaflets coming off on either side, typically in opposite pairs. Similarly, bipinnate leaves are twice feathered, meaning that each leaflet coming off of the central axis makes a smaller central axis, with smaller leaflets coming off of it. Tilia cordata, the little leaf linden native to much of Europe, is named for its heart-shaped leaves. Cordata is a cognate of cord, as in string, so you can remember this name as one that tugs at your heartstrings. Acer pentaphyllum has 5-fingered leaves. Penta, like pentagram, means 5 or having 5, and phyllum means leaf or leaves. This is the same word as the phyllo in phyllo dough, which is a thin, unleavened dough used to make pastries such as baklava. Beyond leaf shape lies margin shape. For example, Quercus lobata in the upper right has lobed leaf edges. Castanea dentata on the left has toothed leaves. Dentata is a cognate of dental, which comes from the Latin word for tooth, dent. Denticulata is a diminutive of dentata and means with little teeth. So plants with this epithet, such as the pictured Primula denticulata on the lower right, tend to have finely toothed leaves. In addition to leaf shape and margin, there are also epithets to describe flower type and shape. Plants can also be named for their uses. Tinctoria, for example, means of dye, a fitting epithet for Isatis tinctoria, the source of that famous blue dye, woad. Edulis is a fairly obvious cognate of edible, which is exactly what it means. Passiflora edulis, for example, is the source of passion fruit. To the right is Salvia officinalis, the common sage used in cooking. Officinalis sounds like official or office, and is the root of both of those words. Literally, it means performance of a task, as it is a combination of the Latin words opus, meaning work, and facere, meaning to do. Botanically speaking, however, officinalis has come to mean of apothecaries, and indicates that a plant is or was used medicinally. However, that is not to say that plants without this epithet cannot be used medicinally, or that all plants with this epithet can or should be used medicinally. Please do your research before ingesting or rubbing plants on yourself or others. Finally, there are many plants named after people. In California, it sometimes feels like half the plants are named after David Douglas, a Scottish botanist, though in total, 80 species of plant and animal are named for him, and not all of them are from California. Some plants named for him include the Douglas iris, Iris douglasii, meadow foam, Limnanthes douglasii, pictured in the upper right, and Spirea douglasii. Ironically, the plant for which he is best known, the Douglas fir, pictured on the left, is not only not a fir, it's not named after David Douglas either. Instead, it is named for Archibald Menzies, another Scot, who worked as a surgeon, botanist, and naturalist, and who joined George Vancouver in his voyage aboard the HMS Discovery. The Douglas fir's botanical name is Pseudotsuga menzesii. If it were indeed a fir, its genus would be Abies, not Pseudotsuga. Douglas discovered the plant and named it after himself, only to find that it had already been discovered by and named for Menzies. Douglas's namesake still persists in the vernacular, however, and the name Douglas fir is arguably more widespread than the botanical name, so in a way, Douglas's name has won out. Magnolia wilsonii, on the lower right, is named for Ernest Henry Wilson, a botanist, horticulturist, and plant hunter who did numerous and extensive plant collecting trips to China on behalf of Veitch's nursery. As a general rule, any epithet ending in II is named after someone. It is worth mentioning that, although the Linnaean classification system is wonderful and overcame many of the previous plant name issues, such as names consisting of 10 or more words, it is not without its faults. The International Code of Botanical Nomenclature is inherently Western-centric, being in Roman script and using language derived from Latin and Latinized Greek. And although the oldest name and description is supposed to take precedence, there are, for example, many ancient Chinese herbals containing names, descriptions, and pictures of plants, and yet these names are not considered valid. Although fewer plants discovered in the modern day are named after their so-called discoverers, who are often Westerners traveling to other lands and discovering plants that have been known to the locals for centuries or millennia, there has never been a retrospective limit imposed on the number of plants that can be named after one person. In my personal view, I would like to see retrospective limitations on the number of species named after a person to 1 or 2 species, and a greater number of indigenous colloquial names applied scientifically. The fact that so many species in Asia, Africa, and the Americas are named after Europeans should perhaps be reconsidered. Well, that's my opinion, but I'm also interested in yours. If you'd like, please leave a comment or ask a question. Thank you for watching.